some big trade targets, plenty left, a lot going on. Lot to talk about today. It's 3 o'clock. I am back. I was away in Japan. Bear with me. I got a little bit of a cold. I'm sure I'm going to be okay. I got some water here, but a lot to talk about. It's been 2 weeks and we just had a big deal. Was that yesterday? I think so. I think I was on my trip back, 20 hours back from Haneda Airport to Fort Lauderdale. No delays, fortunately. If there were any delays, would have been taking a day, full day. But 20 hours back. I am back in Fort Lauderdale. As you can see, those who are watching and chat at me, happy to answer any and all questions that I should get. We're going to start with Murakami. I mean, that was the big deal of the day. Was it a monster deal? Belly to the Mets, right? Or we're getting some chats right away. I'm going to get to all the big free agents, and I certainly will answer Belly. He's one of the big four that I am going to discuss among the position players. No question about that. I'm not going to assume that he's going to be a Met at this point, but I get it. He would fit. That would make sense. But let's talk about Murakami first. It's a shocker, really, that he got 2 years, $34 million. Not blaming the agents. Now, I don't want to hear from any of the agents here. Obviously, there were a lot of questions about this player. Teams did not believe in him as us prognosticators did. I did predict. This is my worst prediction ever. I went back and looked, $150 million for Murakami. So I was off by $116 million. I mean, I don't think I was alone, but we'd heard all of the big talk about the big power, and he does have enormous power, no question about that. There were the questions, though. The defense, the strikeout rate, obviously they weighed, and he ended up signing for 2 years, $34 million. Good job by the White Sox to get a big player, and it really is a very, very shocking thing that he got $34 million when I think all the prognosticators were $100 million or more. 25 years old, enormous power. Guy was a third baseman. He's going to be a first baseman for the White Sox. Obviously, there were questions. The questions revolved around the defense. People think that he can be okay, that his hands will be okay. He'll be all right at first base, just a little flat-footed. So it seems like it's about the technique. There's probably work to be done there. He is known as a great guy, a guy who's going to work with the team, figure it out, get better. And he was a number one overall pick at MPB, did hit 56 home runs. So, I think this is maybe a flyer at this point. I don't know. I don't think so. I think the guy's going to be good, and I give the White Sox credit. All right. Any news on the Twins adding a relief pitcher? Interesting. Yes, I did hear something about that a couple days ago, and I don't know what happened there because I have not heard the conclusion to that. So that's an interesting one. I don't know if that's been on the internet or what. So Okamoto, somebody asked about it, and we're going to get to Okamoto in a second. I get it from Cubs and Mets fans. They've got plenty of work to do. On paper, the Cubs still have a very good team. I do think the Cubs will do something big, whether that's Imai, which to me, that's probably their logical move, or something else. Certainly, they are one of the teams in on Bregman, so not going to rule that out either. But I think the Cubs are in pretty good shape. I understand that fans are upset when these smaller trades or signings are made, and I just tweeted one about Christian Bethancourt with the Cubs, and I get there are smaller moves, and I don't think fans should automatically say, oh, this means they're not getting somebody big. It has nothing to do with it, right? Any Pete Fairbanks updates? I think Pete Fairbanks is going to have a deal fairly soon. I mean, we're talking about the best reliever available, who is a free agent. I think he should do very, very well. I might even beat what Tampa decided not to pay. I get it. Tampa's got a different payroll than a lot of teams, lower. In other words, lower. So, but I get it. And thanks for all the questions, and continue to chat at me. And, I do think the Mets are going to do some big stuff. They have been trying. Obviously, they've got a lot of work to do. They have the wherewithal to do it. I do believe David Stearns is a good GM. Is he having a great year, or has he? No, he did not have a good year, as I know. Any traction? Okay, Mets tanking this year, not on purpose. No, I don't. They're not tanking. They'll be back. Any Phillies updates other than JT? I think that JT is the next thing for the Phillies. I'm going to be surprised if he doesn't end up with the Phillies, but it has taken quite some time. All right, and somebody asked about the Padres and the Mets. I get it. The Mets certainly loved a lot of the Padre players. Who wouldn't want Mason Miller? Pavetta certainly would be a help, but how does that work? I mean, McLean's not going anywhere. The Mets have made that clear to teams. I think Benj is basically untradeable or untouchable as well. So I'm not sure how they would be able to work something out there. Not sure how that happens. Cleveland Guardians news. I know they're looking for a right-handed outfielder. I've heard they did not check in on Hayes. That's the one that makes sense to me. Bader makes sense as well. Maybe they go for him. Any chance a dark horse team signs Decker? Yep, absolutely. And I'm going to get to all the big free agents later, but certainly, bear with me. I got a little bit of a cold. I appreciate this. Seattle in Okamoto. I have seen that was at Seattle and San Francisco were tabbed to be the favorites by Katie Wu about 10 days ago. Nothing's come of that. I think that's a tough one because there are probably so many teams interested. Bellinger, we're going to get to that in a little while. Okay, Yankees, Newsy, Meyer, Bellinger. If it's one or the other, I think Bellinger's more likely. Class A news, well, I don't know. That's not looking too good for Class A. I nothing good to update on that one. Dodgers news. They're looking for outfielders. They're in pretty good shape. Robert and the Mets. I've seen that report. I still think that's a long shot. I still think he's a trade deadline candidate more than a summer candidate. $20 million. I think the Mets would want some of it paid down if they're going to give up good prospects. Could be worked out, but the White Sox want to give the Mets money. I mean, that would be the way to do it. Okamoto to the Angels. We're going to get into a lot Okamoto landing spots right now, so let's get to that. All right, Okamoto landing spots. How many teams have I got Okamoto? I've got 6 teams potentially for Okamoto. I don't know if anybody can guess my teams. I've got the Angels, the Pirates, Red Sox, Blue Jays. The Blue Jays don't run anything. Cubs, and Diamondbacks. Now, you'll notice that a lot of those teams are Bregman teams. So, I think the Bregman situation needs to be clarified and probably will be before Okamoto expires. And that's on, I believe, January 2nd. So Okamoto needs to get a deal by January 2nd. And excuse me, I'm getting some texts in there, just following up on a couple things. But I think that those half dozen teams are the most likely right now. Angels, look, I think they like Murakami. My understanding is they never really got the okay for a bid from Artie Moreno on Murakami. So will they get one for Okamoto? Now, Okamoto is a more solid player. People have compared him, at least in terms of a comp. I think this is more for the salary. Say a Suzuki. What did he get? About $85 million. That would be logical. I think those were more in line with the predictions on Okamoto. He's not quite the gamble, I guess, that Murakami was seen as. And again, I like the deal. I like the player. I think Murakami's going to be good. I think he's going to be worth it. Just going to check that text. But great job by the White Sox to take that shot at that. But again, Okamoto, a front runner for Tucker. I'm going to get in at the end. I'm going to get to Bellinger, Tucker, Bregman, and Bichette and give you my front runner for all 4 of those teams. So happy to do that at the end. Chris Bubic getting traded. Hopefully Houston. Houston is looking for another starting pitcher after adding one. I know they were looking at Shane Baz, who went to the Orioles. He was a very popular fellow. Obviously, Tampa did great with that trade. The Orioles are a big winner in my estimation to this point. My understanding in Bubic is the Royals have been frustrated because he's a very good pitcher who just missed the last several weeks of the season, so the value just isn't there yet. Dodgers in on Bichette. I have not heard that. I would be surprised. I think they need to look at the outfield. They don't need to run up the payroll with another infielder. Obviously, Mookie Betts is a great shortstop. I think they're in good situation in terms of the infield overall. So I'm not seeing that. What's next for the Red Sox? I think it's pretty obvious. One more infielder, preferably a righty. So I think we're looking at Marte potentially or Bregman. Bregman's the more likely of the two, probably. Are the Pirates going to make another big move? I'm glad you put it that way, another big move, because they did make a nice move to get Lau. I think they will add another offensive player. And as I mentioned, they're in on Okamoto. Pirates on Okamoto. Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned, there's one of the half dozen teams, and they're one of those teams that's not attached to Bregman. So I certainly think the Pirates could be the team for Okamoto. And good for them if they are. And they added Lau. If you add Lau and Okamoto, I think they're getting there. Are they a bona fide contender with those two? Not sure. It depends on how good Okamoto is. We know Lau's pretty good, so that's a big plus. I think they're close. I think two more players really could do it for them. Orioles adding another starting pitcher. I wouldn't put it past them. They're going for it. They're looking at a lefty reliever. I've seen Jojo Romero mentioned. I do believe that another starting pitcher could be in the offing for the Orioles. Look at that AL East. I'm glad I wrote about that. That was one thing I was right about, that the AL East was going to go really strong, and they really have, and the Orioles are right at the forefront of it. Phillies news, Bregman, Imai, Bader. Yeah, I think they're a team that I've mentioned with Imai potentially. Yankees updates, please. Anything close? Well, as I reported, they signed Paul Blackburn. I know that didn't excite the masses, but I think, obviously they're working on Bellinger. That's the priority. They've mentioned that. Imai is a guy that they are going to be in on, along with a number of teams. What are their chances? I can't say they're spectacular. I've felt the Cubs with Imai. Now, there are 30 teams. Could be somebody else, but to me, the Cubs are a team that makes sense for Imai. All right. So Okamoto landing spots to conclude. We have the Angels, the Pirates, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Cubs, and the Diamondbacks. And again, those last four teams, Boston, Toronto, Cubs, Arizona, all teams are looking at Bregman as well. So we'll be interesting to see once Bregman signs. We're going to lose one of those teams, and Okamoto will have at least those five teams. Got a good market, though. It's not going to blow up on him like it did a Murakami. And again, not blaming the agent, Murakami. Obviously, there were questions. The big strikeout rate, the defense, obviously questioned. He's going to be a first baseman. I think it's a good signing at 34. I picked 150, so I think it's a pretty good signing at 34 million. Good for the White Sox. All right. Sox Cardinals trade. This is their third trade, right? They traded. Matz was traded. There's Sonny Gray, and now we've got Wilson Contreras. To me, he might have fit the Mets. I don't know that the Mets were in on him, but good for the Red Sox. They've added a big righty bat for the middle of the order. They need one more right now, and obviously Bregman will be the focus. That's the more likely, the more logical. He was the guy who was there. He's great for the clubhouse. I don't think anyone else makes the sense that Bregman does for Boston. So to me, that's the one that makes sense. Contreras. I think it was like 8 million going back to pay some of it down, not that much. And they got Dobbins back. So I think the Cardinals did okay there. Contreras has obviously been a very steady righty bat in St. Louis. That's the way he's been his whole career. And that does help Boston offensively. Is Hal Steinbrenner officially broke? Well, they bought the team for 10 million. It is now worth 10 billion, if that's what you call broke. Yankees are a joke. Now I understand that reaction. I get it. But it's, what are we, December, 22nd? I had to look it up. December 22nd at this point. We got a long way to go. Let's not jump to any conclusions about the Yankees are terrible, the Cubs are terrible, the Mets are terrible. Also, let's give credit to the AL East at this point. Generally, Baltimore's been great. They're a winner. Toronto's been great. They're a winner. Boston is doing stuff. Their fans were a little annoyed, but they've added Sonny Gray. They've now added Wilson Contreras. And I like their odds on Bregman. Do I think they're signing him? No, I don't, because we've got several teams still on Bregman, but Boston's going great guns. Toronto, Baltimore, the big winners. I think Tampa has done a nice job, maybe not for 2026, but the Boz trade was really selling high on him, which I think that's the way to go. Bichette to the Yankees and Volpe to Japan. Now, come on. Volpe's, I think Volpe still has potential. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. Mets, we're going to need a question with that. All right. Yankees got embarrassed in playoffs and do nothing after. All right. Again, it's December 22nd. Let's wait to see what they do. I get they've done not a lot so far. They signed three guys for $2.5 million each, right? Rosario, they signed Blackburn, they've signed three guys. I don't know. There was one other. Could the Cubs trade Nico Horner? I mean, I hear that, but I also hear he's the lifeblood of the team. So anything on firing David Stearns? Come on, come on. He's got another 3 years to go, and he is extremely well respected. They had one great year and one terrible year. I mean, you'd have to have at least two terrible years to really consider anything like that. Dodgers, Skubal. Yeah, I mean, if Skubal gets traded, I mean, I don't want to say that's going to ruin baseball, but that's certainly not going to help. Ryan O'Hearn to the Pirates, definite possibility. Thank you very much. That's somebody who's paying attention. Makes sense. Mets need to sign Tucker 5 to 7 year. Well, look, the Mets need to do something, whether it's Tucker, Bellinger, whomever, they do need to do something. Boy, Yankee fans are not too happy. Am I the Yankees a slam dunk? I don't know about that. I know they like him. I'm not hearing slam dunk. Giants, anything? The Giants have added some players, right? They added Hauser for the bullpen. I think they're still working. They are interested in Bellinger. They're one of the teams in on him. Are they likely to sign him? I can't say he's likely to go to the Giants. He came up as a Dodger. He was just a Yankee. That could be one of those free agents. I think that's going to be possibly difficult for them. All right, some news is coming in now. Jeff McNeil's going to the A's reportedly. Just checking in that. I just want to check on that, but bear with me. All right. Just got to check on that. All right, just got to check on that. That makes sense. Got to give that makes sense for the Mets. Obviously, didn't have a position once they got Semien. They obviously needed to make that move, so that does make sense. Let me just check that. All right. All right. Very good. I'm just checking that. I'm sure that's probably correct, but do want to check on that. Let's see what we can do here. No, that is correct. Just wanted to confirm that. Sorry about that delay. Yes, McNeil did go to the A's. That was a good report there. That makes perfect sense. It's got all right. All right. Anyway, so the Mets, I know the fans are not happy. I do believe they will be doing big stuff. Obviously, they've got the wherewithal, they've got the owner to do it. Bregman to the Mariners, that one I haven't heard. I'm going to name 4 or 5 teams with Bregman. Wouldn't rule it out, though, because they are looking at third base. I think Suarez, bringing back Suarez, is probably more likely for them. Thank God Jeff is gone. You know what? Jeff was a good man. Time was up, though. I mean, it was time to move on. I think that's fair to say. Preller making moves. Preller's always making moves. He was they were one of the teams in with Murakami earlier. They do stuff. I mean, they just signed a song, not for a song either, but they did sign him. Can I elaborate on the big stuff with the Mets? I do believe that they're going to get a starting pitcher. I know they're going to figure it out somehow, whether it be by trade or by free agency. I know they don't want to go long term for a starting pitcher, but I do believe that they will get a starting pitcher, and they're obviously going to add to the bullpen. There's no question about that. Just to do a couple things here. And I do believe that they're going to add some more offense. So, I mean, it's early. We're talking December 22nd. All right. All right. Sox Cardinals trade. I think I've concluded that. Good job by the Red Sox. I think the Cardinals did pretty well. All right. Let's go. More trades. All right, let me get into the other trade possibilities here. Uh, Brendan Donovan, a lot of people have brought him up. He's got incredible value. They're obviously looking at many, many things. Could they keep him? Obviously, yes. He doesn't make the kind of money that the guys they've traded like Gray make, or certainly Contreras. But I do believe Brendan Donovan will probably be moved. Many teams are going to be, the Mets are a team that's going to be interested in him, but there are many teams interested in Donovan. Arenado's a guy I think, and I saw Ken Rosenthal kind of tied him to the Angels, potentially his hometown team. I could see that. We'll see what goes on with the Angels. As I said, the Angels are a team I'm tying to Okamoto. Now that's going to take big money. Are they willing to do that? I'm not sure. Arenado's only got a year to go. They'll pay the money down, so that might even be more likely for Arenado. Dodgers Quan, so says somebody. I just still don't see why the Guardians trade Quan, but I'm not going to rule it out. It's obviously out there as a possibility. He's got a year to go. Tremendous defender. Where does Ketel Marte land? Excellent question. I mean, I'm still sticking with either Tampa Bay, Seattle, or the Red Sox. I don't think it's going to be Philly or Toronto. I mean, these other teams that are looking at Bregman potentially could look at Marte, but I'm still looking at those teams. I think Boston's more likely to go for Bregman. So, it's possible he ends up staying with the Diamondbacks too. It's not a guarantee. Goldschmidt to the Cubs. I don't know. I'm still hoping for Goldschmidt to go back to the Diamondbacks. We shall see about that. But they did have him. He came up with them, and I think that's a nice story. We shall see. All right. More trade candidates. Luis Robert, as I said, I think that's a deadline trade thing. More likely, CJ Abrams, another guy potentially. Why aren't there more three-team trade transactions? Well, three-team makes it more complicated. Sometimes you need to do that to get the right prospect. So they work it out, but I mean, that takes a lot of work. So it's a little bit easier to do one for one. Why is the reporting on Imai so quiet? I don't know. I do think he has a good market. I think he'll do well. I think with Murakami that it was quiet, but it turned out to be he didn't have much of a market. Jeff McNeil, yes, Jeff McNeil is going to the A's. I can confirm that. I didn't want to take the time to find out what else was going on there, but it was confirmed. Sorry. Uh, I mean, they can't possibly get too much for Jeff McNeil at this point anyway, right? Can we just announce Belly? I don't know. I'm going to go over all the remaining free agents. We're not going to announce anybody here today, and it's not so easy as you think. There are a lot of teams in on these top free agents. Absolutely. Let me finish up with the trades, though. Skubal, Peralta, Gore, Ryan. Look, the Twins have said they're not dealing Ryan, so we're going to assume that's correct, at least for now. Shane Baz got so much that you got to wonder, at least think about it, because I mean, Joe Ryan is a much more accomplished pitcher than Shane Baz. I get that Shane Baz has great stuff, teams love him. I mean, to me, I'd go for the accomplished guy, and if Shane Baz gets you that, I mean, why not consider trading Joe Ryan? Gore, I think he's going to be dealt. Obviously, it's taken a while. His name has been out there. Again, Shane Baz get that much, Gore should get at least that much, right? You would think. Peralta feels like more of a chance now than there was before, so I think there is a decent chance he does get traded. 1 year to go, 8 million. A terrific pitcher, top five Cy Young. I think he was third or fourth probably. Yamamoto had to be third. So certainly that's a possibility. Skubal, I'm still saying that's a long shot. I know there are teams in there pitching. No pun intended. To me, Detroit is a contender. They've made the playoffs the last 2 years. They were a 500 team when he didn't pitch. If they don't have him, I don't know who replaces them. That makes them a below 500 team because the replacement guy is not going to be an average pitcher at this point, right? You're talking about a number 5 starter. So to me, you got to keep him. You've got AJ Hinch there as the manager, outstanding manager. I mean, do they want to disappoint him to that degree to trade Tarik Skubal? That would be tough to me. But hey, look, stranger things have happened. Mookie Betts was traded when he was a year from free agency when he was with a very big market team, right? So somebody said something about the Wildcats. Yeah, I think they're playing Friday. I should know that for sure. Can the D-backs keep Marte and sign Bregman? I look, they already got Merrill Kelly back. I think that's probably a stretch. It's probably one or the other for the D-backs, and they should be happy to get either one of them. And obviously, you can easily get Marte because you can just keep him. So I would think if you sign Bregman, though, Marte's likelihood of being traded is probably stronger. Anything on the Marlins? I mean, Edward Cabrera's name is out there. Still not going to be shocked if he is traded. I'm glad you mentioned him. When do you think Bregman signs? I think Bregman signs in the next 10 days. I really do. We'll see. I mean, the timing is not easily predicted. I will say that. Skubal for Peralta and three. No, that's not happening. No, if you trade Skubal, you want to trade him for future, right? Same with Peralta. So that is not happening. If Peralta's traded, he's getting traded for future. Skubal's not being traded to the Brewers. I know that Greinke was traded to the Brewers near his free agency, and that was a little bit of a surprise, but it did happen, and ended up being a great trade for Kansas City. Duran more expendable after Contreras deal. I don't think it changes things. I think he is tradable. Jon Heyman has more streams than Yankees have made. Yeah, that's fair. That isn't even close. Yankees have made those three moves at $2.5 million apiece. Oh, Yarborough was the other $2.5 million move. So they've made three moves, all for $2.5 million. I think the Yankees are going to do something. Bellinger is the most likely, but I think could be Imai, could be something. I think they will do something. The Mets have to do something, and they absolutely will. Yankees should sign both Imai and Bellinger. It makes too much sense. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not sure that the likelihood of that is terrific. We did have Hal Steinbrenner on the conference call talking a lot about the budget. Again, he talks about the budget all the time, but they spend. Look, they brought in Cole. They brought back Judge. They've signed big players in the past. They obviously signed Sabathia. They have done big stuff. So let's not forget that. I mean, do they spend like the Dodgers spend? No, but they do spend. All right. Why aren't Happ and Suzuki? I'm not sure what that is. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about Cubs trading, yeah, I think they would listen on any of the potential walk guys, right? So Happ and Suzuki are in the same category as Horner, if that was the question. Fairbanks to the Marlins. That makes sense to me. I can see that happening. They are looking at him. I'm not going to be shocked if that does happen. All right, let me get to the remaining free agent market. We only have 3 minutes to go, so I'm probably just going to hit on the big position players right now. Yankees have done big stuff, but they haven't won anything in the past 16 years. I think it was 15 years, but that is true. They haven't. I wouldn't say they haven't won anything. They've been to the World Series, but yeah, they haven't won the World Series, and that's the Yankee goal, right? All right, let's do Bellinger first. I mean, at this point, I'm still going to say that the Yankees are the most logical of all the teams. That makes the most sense. They've named him as their number one priority. None of these other teams have said that, and they're allowed to. He is a free agent. I do think they love Bellinger. I do think he likes it there very much. It does make sense. I know the Giants are a team that's in on it. The Mets are in on it. I think the Dodgers have some interest in Bellinger. There may be other teams in on Bellinger. He was a 5-WAR player last year. He's been proven in a big market. He obviously overcame whatever that was that hindered him there for a few years. And, I get it. When you're a Mets fan, it makes sense. There are a lot of guys out there. The Mets what they really need to do, excuse me, I'm getting a lot of text. What they really need to do is improve that pitching. That's really what the Mets need to do. But Bellinger would be a good fit for them, right? Because he plays first base, he plays left field, he plays center field. I do think they're going to give Benj a shot probably in center next year. But Bellinger would be a good fit for the Mets, would work for the Giants. Obviously, the Dodgers don't have weaknesses, but outfield is not their greatest strength, so that would make sense as well. But I'm going to say Yankees for Bellinger. Tucker, I mean, we got to think Toronto, right? But I don't know what's going on there. He visited. You got to assume they made an offer. Obviously, it wasn't the right offer. We haven't heard that much about the rest of the market. We got to assume now Baltimore. I mean, we wouldn't have thought they were had the money to begin with, but now they've signed Alonso. They were looking at pitching, so I'm not sure. The Dodgers and the Blue Jays were the two teams I mentioned during the World Series for Tucker. Not just that they were in the World Series, but those were the teams I thought were interested in Tucker, and that may prove to be the case. The Dodgers are not a team that likes to go long term, though, so I'm not sure that's going to be the right fit. You got to think Tucker's going to want to strike now with a long-term deal. So I'm questioning that. That's why I'm still kind of favoring Toronto. Long way to go potentially on that one. Bregman, I mean, you got to think it worked out so well with Boston. They'll figure it out. They've got the one righty bat. They could use another one. I think that one makes sense. Certainly, we know that the Cubs are in on Bregman, as is Toronto, as is Arizona. He is from New Mexico. He does live in Arizona. Maybe that gives the Diamondbacks a little bit of an edge there. Maybe he does love that idea. He does have young children. I could see potentially Arizona stealing him, but I got to think Boston's probably the team for Bregman. I mean, not everybody can go to Toronto ultimately, right? Somebody's got to go somewhere else. Bichette, I'm going to say he sticks with Toronto. We shall see. Not been a lot of reporting on that. Certainly the Red Sox are a possibility if he doesn't end up with Toronto. But to me, it's a marriage that's worked. So I think Toronto there. So I got two more guys going to Toronto. That's a bit strong. We'll see. Good for the Blue Jays. They've had a great offseason. They're certainly one of the big winners, as are the Orioles. I appreciate all the help with the chats. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to all of them. I didn't have my chat helper with me today, so I might have missed a few. But it's been my pleasure. I will be back at you next Monday. It's Jon Heyman signing off for Bleacher Report.